I always believed our town was safe. The kind of place where people left their doors unlocked and kids played in the street until the stars came out. We didn't have much excitement, and that was how people liked it. But the day Owen arrived, something shifted. His camper van rolled in like a ghost ship, covered in grime and road dust, its windows dark and unwelcoming. The first time I saw it parked by the old mill, it looked like it didn't belong there. Like it didn't belong. Anywhere. The paint was sun-bleached, cracked in places, and there were dents along the side that spoke of accidents and rough roads. A single wind chime hung from the side mirror, clinking softly in the breeze, a strange, delicate thing against all that rust and ruin. Everyone noticed him. My mom said he gave her chills the first time she saw him at the gas station. He looked at me like he was seeing right through me, she said, her voice low. Just stay away, Nora. I told her I would. But the truth was, I was too curious to stay away. Owen himself was a contradiction. He had these eyes that seemed too old for his face, like he'd lived through something that had burned away all the softness. His shoulders were broad, and his hands looked strong, but there was a kind of gentleness in the way he moved. Always slow, always careful, like he was afraid of breaking something invisible. I'd pass by his camper on my way home from school. Some days he'd be there, sitting on the steps, whittling a small piece of wood into something that looked like a bird or an animal. His hands would move with this calm precision that I couldn't stop watching. Other days he'd just be staring into the trees, cigarette smoke curling around him like a ghost. The kids at school were cruel about it. They said he was a killer, that he'd been in prison for hurting someone. Some claimed they'd seen his criminal record online, though no one ever showed any proof. They'd dare each other to go tap on his camper after dark to see if he'd come out and chase them. But every time I watched from a distance, I never saw him get angry. He'd just watch them with those tired eyes, like he'd seen it all before, and didn't have the energy to care. It was the way he avoided people that really got me. He never went into town unless he had to, and when he did, he moved like he was trying to become invisible. Head down, shoulders hunched, slipping in and out of the corner store as quickly as possible. And he never talked, not even to say hello. One evening, I rode past the old mill just as the sun was setting. Owen was there, sitting under the willow tree, his face lit by the last rays of sunlight. He had a small piece of wood in his hand, and he was carving it so carefully, like it was the most important thing in the world. I slowed my bike and watched from a distance. He didn't look up. He didn't even seem to notice I was there. In that moment, I didn't see a criminal or a threat. I saw someone who looked lost. Someone who carried so much weight in his silence that it almost made my chest ache. And I remember thinking, if he really was a monster, why did he look so sad? That was when the questions started. And once they did, I couldn't shake them. For weeks after that evening under the willow tree, I couldn't stop thinking about Owen. He haunted my thoughts like a puzzle I was desperate to solve. Everyone else in town either ignored him or whispered fearful stories behind his back. But I felt this strange pull, like there was something more beneath the surface, something no one else saw. One chilly afternoon, I was walking home from school when I heard yelling near the playground. A group of older kids had cornered a smaller boy, pushing him around and taunting him. The kid was trembling, trying to get away but trapped by cruel hands and harsh words. My heart pounded in my chest. I didn't know what to do. Should I run for help? Should I try to step in? I was frozen, stuck in place, scared. Suddenly, out of nowhere, Owen appeared. He wasn't rushing or yelling like you'd expect. He just walked calmly toward the group, his steps slow but purposeful. His eyes, those distant, tired eyes, locked onto the bullies without a hint of fear or hesitation. "Leave him alone," he said quietly. But there was steel behind his voice. Not angry or threatening, just firm, like he was laying down a law nobody dared break. The older kids looked stunned. None of them said a word. They shuffled uncomfortably, exchanging nervous glances. Then, as if realizing this wasn't worth the trouble, they dispersed, scattered like leaves on the wind. The small boy looked up at Owen with wide eyes, like he'd just been saved from drowning. I watched from the sidelines, heart racing, realizing something important. Owen wasn't the monster they said he was. He was the exact opposite. From that day on, I started noticing the things Owen did that no one else seemed to see. He'd walk quietly through the neighborhood, always keeping his distance from the kids but watching them like a guardian shadow. I saw him picking up trash that others left behind, fixing broken fences with careful hands, and even slipping little notes onto the playground equipment, notes that said things like, "You are stronger than you think," or "Keep going." No one else knew he was the one doing these things. To them, he was still the scary outsider with a past best left alone. But I saw the kindness in the small details, the way he moved with care, like he was making sure the town was safe in his own quiet way. I wondered, though, why? Why would someone with a past heavy enough to make everyone run for cover care so much about a town that barely tolerated him? What had happened to make him so guarded, so silent? And what was he really running from? The more I watched Owen, the more I wanted to know his story. It felt like there was this invisible wall between him and the rest of the world, a wall built from silence, rumors, and maybe a lot of pain. One evening, just as the sun was beginning to set, and the sky turned soft shades of pink and orange, I found him again by the willow tree. He was sitting on a weathered bench, his hands busy carving a small wooden bird. His movements were slow, deliberate, like every stroke of the knife was a way to hold himself together. I hesitated for a moment, heart pounding, then took a deep breath and said, "Hey." He looked up, surprised. His eyes, which usually seemed so distant, met mine for just a second, before he gave a small nod. "Hey," he said softly. I sat down on the grass a few feet away, unsure how to start, feeling the weight of the silence between us. The only sounds were the rustling leaves and the faint chirping of crickets. For a moment, it felt like the whole world had slowed down. Finally, I found the courage to ask, "Why do you stay here? When no one really wants you?" He sighed, a heavy sound that seemed to carry years of exhaustion. "Because this place needs someone to watch over it, even if they don't see it." His voice was low but steady like a promise. I frowned, thinking of all the nasty things people said about him. "But people say you're dangerous, that you've done bad things." His eyes darkened, and for a moment, I thought he might shut me out again. But instead, he looked away, focusing on carving a new shape. A tiny, imperfect star. "I did what I had to do," he said quietly. "Sometimes doing what's right means getting your hands dirty." Then he looked back at me, his gaze sharper. "Now, there's more to people than what you hear, more than their worst mistakes." I nodded slowly, realizing this was just the surface of a story nobody wanted to hear. "So you protect the neighborhood?" He gave a faint smile, the first real one I'd seen. "I protect the kids, from people who don't see them the way they deserve." His voice held a kind of fierce, quiet strength. That night, as I walked, home under the stars, I couldn't stop thinking about everything Owen had said. About mistakes, about protection, about being judged without a chance to explain. It was clear his story was complicated, painful, but there was something honest in it too. I knew deep down this was only the beginning of understanding who Owen really was, and what he was fighting for. After that night, things between Owen and me changed, even if we didn't talk much more. There was an unspoken understanding, like a fragile bridge built over silence and suspicion. I started noticing even more about him. Not just the quiet way he moved, but the small ways he tried to keep the neighborhood safe. One morning, I saw him at the park again. He wasn't just watching from the shadows this time. He was there early, picking up trash left behind by careless visitors. He found a torn swing seat and carefully tied it back together with some string. The park looked better because of him, even if no one thanked him. But it wasn't just the park. Sometimes I'd see him lurking near places where trouble might happen. The schoolyard, the alley behind the corner store, even outside some houses where kids lived alone or with parents who didn't seem to notice. He never talked to the kids directly, but he made sure to be there, a quiet guardian no one saw coming. One afternoon, I caught a glimpse of something else. Owen was standing outside the house of Mr. Carlson, the town's creepy doctor who everyone whispered about, but no one dared to confront. Owen's eyes were sharp, his posture tense. I watched as he pulled out his phone, typing something quickly, then slipping back into the shadows. Curious and worried, I asked him about Mr. Carlson the next time I saw him. Owen just shook his head. "There are things going on here no one knows about," he said. "And sometimes you have to fight in the dark to keep others safe." I didn't understand everything then, but I felt the weight of what he carried. It wasn't just about staying out of trouble or hiding from the past. It was about protecting a community that didn't want to believe someone like him could be its protector. From that day on, I saw Owen not as an outcast or a danger, but as a silent warrior fighting battles no one else could see. Weeks passed, and though the uneasy tension in the neighborhood didn't disappear overnight, something subtle began to shift. The whispers about Owen didn't stop entirely, but they lost their sharpness, the cruel edge that once made his name a warning. People began noticing the small things. A fence that had been broken for months suddenly fixed, litter cleared from the park, the swing tied back up just right. No one ever saw who did it, but the neighborhood felt different, safer somehow. One chilly evening, curiosity got the better of me. I decided to follow Owen from a distance. He moved quietly through the streets, alert and cautious, like a shadow, slipping between cracks of light and darkness. His eyes scanned every corner, every window, every empty alley. He wasn't just walking, he was hunting for something. He stopped in front of a crumbling old house at the very edge of town. It was the place where Mr. Carlson lived, the town's creepy doctor who no one trusted, but no one dared to challenge, either. Owen didn't hesitate. He pulled a folded paper from his pocket and slipped it under the door before disappearing into the night. That very same night, news broke that Mr. Carlson was under investigation for the abuse of children, a nightmare that no one in our town wanted to face, but now had no choice but to confront. The town was shaken, the silence broken. People looked around at each other, eyes wide with disbelief, knowing they had all turned a blind eye. And through it all, I realized something important. Owen's silence, his distance, wasn't about hiding from us or his past. It was about fighting for us in ways none of us could have imagined. He'd been gathering evidence, silently protecting the kids and families that couldn't protect themselves. When the police finally took Mr. Carlson away, the neighborhood began to breathe again. Slowly, cautiously. Some people whispered thanks for the quiet stranger who had saved us all without asking for anything in return. But Owen wasn't there to hear it. The very next morning, his camper was gone, vanished without a trace, like a ghost in the wind. Later that day, I found a note on my desk. It was simple, almost like a quiet breath in the chaos. "Thank you for seeing the truth when others turned away. Keep watching. Keep fighting." I still keep that note. Years have passed, but it sits on my desk like a reminder of courage, sacrifice, and the fact that sometimes the true heroes are the ones who fight in the shadows, far away from the spotlight. Years passed, but Owen never truly left my mind. Even after the chaos settled and life went on, his presence lingered in the back of my thoughts, like a quiet echo that refused to fade. It wasn't just because of what he did that night, or the evidence he helped uncover. It was because I understood, now that his story wasn't over. Not by a long shot. Owen wasn't just some shadow who passed through our town and disappeared. He was a guardian, an unseen force silently shaping the safety of lives far beyond what anyone else could see. And knowing that made me realize I couldn't just stand by. I needed to do something. I needed to follow in his footsteps. So I threw myself into social work. I wanted to be the person who stood up for the kids who couldn't stand up for themselves, the ones caught in darkness. Every time I sat with a scared child, every time I helped a family on the edge of breaking, I thought about Owen, the man who faced his demons quietly, who fought battles in the shadows without a word or a plea for thanks. Then, unexpectedly, the letters started arriving. No return address, no signature. Just handwriting I recognized right away. The same careful, strong script Owen used when he carved those wooden figures by the willow tree. The letters were short, but heavy with meaning, small pieces of his world sent to me like lifelines. One letter read, "Not all monsters wear masks. Sometimes they wear smiles. Stay vigilant." Another said, "The fight never ends. Neither should we." Sometimes the letters carried warnings, sometimes encouragement. Always they reminded me that Owen was still out there, still fighting, still watching, still protecting. Those letters became a secret thread tying me to him, proof that even when the world forgets, the quiet heroes don't stop. That no matter how far he'd gone or how hidden he'd become, his mission was still alive. I don't know where Owen is now. Maybe he's guarding another town, protecting children who can't protect themselves. Maybe he's still carrying the weight of the past all alone, just like before. But one thing is clear. Owen's story taught me how to look beyond fear and judgment, beyond rumors and assumptions, to see the truth waiting beneath. And because of him, I've chosen to keep fighting too. Sometimes, in the quiet moments when the world feels still, I catch myself thinking about Owen. I wonder if he ever looks back at this town, the streets he once walked, the parks he silently guarded, the old willow tree where we first connected without words. Maybe he pauses for a moment, just long enough to remember the faces he protected and the battles he fought alone, before disappearing again into the shadows where his work is never done. Over the years, I've come to understand what it truly means to be a hero. Real heroes don't always wear capes or stand in the spotlight. More often, they carry scars deep beneath the surface, scars that tell stories no one hears. They fight wars that never make headlines, battles that unfold in silence, away from the eyes of the world. Owen was one of those heroes, misunderstood, feared, and labeled by a past he didn't deserve, but fiercely determined to protect those who couldn't protect themselves. His story changed me in ways I never expected. It showed me that people are never just the sum of their worst mistakes or the rumors that swirl around them. Sometimes the people society shuns, the ones we fear or judge without knowing, are the very ones who hold everything together when no one else can. True courage isn't always loud or obvious. Sometimes it's quiet, steady, and invisible, shining only to those willing to look closely. I still keep the letters Owen sent me, short notes written in the same careful, steady handwriting I remember so well. They're filled with warnings, encouragement, and reminders that the fight never truly ends. Those letters became a secret lifeline between us, a silent promise that no matter how dark things get, someone out there is still watching, still protecting. If you ever feel alone, scared, or misunderstood, I hope you remember Owen's story. Remember that real strength is standing up for others, even when no one believes in you. Remember that sometimes the quietest voices carry the greatest courage. And maybe, just maybe, there's a guardian watching over you right now. Someone fighting battles you can't see. Someone who chose to protect you without asking for thanks. Owen's story isn't just about one person. It's about seeing beyond fear and judgment to find the truth hidden beneath. It's about sacrifice, silent bravery, and the quiet heroes who keep us safe when we don't even know we need saving. Thank you for listening to this story. I hope it reminds you to look a little closer, to question what you think you know, and to never stop believing in the power of courage, especially when it's found in the most unexpected places.